How are we doing? Hope we are all well. It's me, Ryan Hartley, back for episode 57. Episode 57 of the Always Better Than Yesterday interview sessions. I hope that we are well. I hope we have a wonderful bank holiday weekend so far. The sun has been here. It's probably all stored up in my forehead. A little bit warm today in the office, but I will not complain. So just going to send a few invites out. When you join the conversation, drop me some blue love heart emojis. If you catch up on replay, just drop the hashtag replay. Let me just take the time to appreciate you for taking the time out of your bank holiday weekend to spend it with us. I hope that you're sitting nice and comfortably, whether you're chilling out watching the sun go down with a cider, or whether you're chilling on the sofa with a cup of tea. Whatever you're doing, let me know. And obviously if you're catching up on the podcast and replay, then I hope you are also comfortable. Or maybe it's on your commute, and I hope you're having a great start to your day. But either way, here we go, episode 57. If this is the first time you've ever come across what I do, let me just take 30 seconds to explain why. I'm a curious little monkey. I love to understand what really works for people from a mindset perspective. And when I say mindset, just simply the way that people think, because I think the way people think informs the way that people act and ultimately the results that they get. So that's why mindset's really of interest to me. And I've just really enjoyed having 56 awesome guests to ask my curious questions of, to help me learn what works for them. So that's why I do this, so I can learn. And in the spirit of making social media a place for social good, I'm sharing that via the power of social media. So here we go, episode 57. Really excited to be joined by Debi John this evening. Debi is the founder of Play Healing, and I won't say too much because I'd love Debi to explain about all what that is, and her group as well. So we'll dive into that in much more detail very shortly, and I will just bring her out. So yeah, hope that we're well. Love it if you shared the stream. Hello.
Hi, can you hear?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me okay?
Nice, yes, it's really good.
Happy days.
Woo.
Thank you. Have you had a good day?
Yeah, it's fab. Been to Cheddar Gorge. I've never been to Cheddar Gorge before. Rather nice, isn't it?
Would you recommend it?
Yeah, it's especially on a hot day like this. It is just fabulous. Really nice to catch up with some friends and see the kids playing outside and having fun. So I've left early to come and say hello.
Amazing. Well, can you do me the honour and the privilege of introducing your good self and then just telling us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, so Debi John, 38, been married 17 years this week, and
Wow.
2 children, 13 and 11. So yeah, just launching out in a bit of a new vein with the Play Healing.
Cool. Tell us more about your journey. Tell us about what's led you up to starting Play Healing.
Awesome. Yeah, so I've been brought up in a really big family. So I was the oldest of 6 children. Wow. So able to boss people around from a young age. But I had to take quite a lot of responsibility. But I think that's what drew me to teaching. So I did. Hi, Deb. Hi, Lisa. So I went into teaching, but through my years growing up, we had a very musical family, so we all played an instrument, jammed together, and parents musical. I was playing live at sort of 11 onwards in bands, first in the church, then I think my first function band was about 16, and I'd be going to like Freshers' Weeks and dancing with all the uni people and set up a business doing wedding music, drinking Pimm's and playing. That was really fun. And then my mum was a little bit unsure about, I didn't know whether I'd go into sort of classical or pop in the end. Played violin as well as like singing and piano stuff. So I took a year out. And she was like, oh, the music industry is horrible. You don't want to do it. Are you sure you want to do music? So I was like, okay, I'll go traveling. I'll think about it. And I really just missed the music. It was part of me. I'd been writing songs and expressing myself from a young age. And so, yeah, I went and chose to do pop music because I knew I wanted to get into some sort of teaching, and I knew the teenagers were not listening to classical music. And I didn't, I like both, but I chose to do that. I may as well enjoy my degree. So, yeah, did that, got married in the middle, and met some amazing people. So through that, met lots of sort of some famous people, not so famous people. My husband was really into music as well. So when we were going out, when we were early married, we'd be going out. We lived near London, so we'd go into London sort of 3 times a week to gigs and backstage parties and just hanging out, and had the opportunity of working with like awesome producers who were doing like, do you remember S Club 7 and Kylie he'd worked with, and other people. So really, I loved the whole creative industry. Bit scary as a young girl as well, and I had this whole fear of things not turning out. But yeah, so I drew from that, and even when I was doing my teaching, got into secondary, I did like 4 days teaching, and one day I'd go into London, record, work with some awesome people. So I just kept that passion alive for the music. And because I just believe if you're going to teach and train people, you've got to have that passion. And I'd come across too many teachers who either didn't like the subject they were teaching or didn't like children. And I was like, I don't want to be like that. So yeah, I mean, we're talking like 20 years of sort of working in music and education, the creative arts. But three years, I went into family and youth work, sort of a poorer area in Hampshire. So through that, I really discovered my passion for mentoring and coaching. And I was sort of thrown into working with really vulnerable, broken children. Hi, Darren. Darren is an amazing guy with PA and stuff. He can make anyone sound good. Hi, Darren. Anyway, yeah, so had a really, it was a real transition for me, because even though I was teaching, I was seeing special needs go up, mental health issues coming up, rising up more and more. But I was then, because the school at the time was really stretched, they were giving me children that had really high needs. You're talking about someone who'd been gang raped, someone who's like self-harming, all that sort of stuff. And so I was thrown into this sort of world of being there, being present. And I quickly got myself a supervisor. Do you know, like, you use supervisors in coaching, right? You know, someone, because when you're working with children, you just want to keep safe. You've got to be safe, you know, because children are impressionable. You've got to make sure you're healthy emotionally, and you can be completely present for them. And that's a sort of a space where you can offload all the sort of stress and any things that's coming up in you. So yeah, I got a supervisor, but then after sort of 3 years, I thought, gosh, I just want that piece of paper. I want more deeper training in this. So instead of doing the sort of music therapy route, which maybe looked like a natural way, after all those years of working with children, I didn't want to just narrow it down to music, because and I discovered something called play therapy. The play therapy has got, you can use music therapy techniques, art therapy techniques, puppets, sand tray, therapeutic story, creative visualization, awesome stuff. So you train in all of these areas, and then the child can come into this environment where you keep them safe and they can explore, they can process using whatever means possible. So yeah, and I just believe that children they're not able to articulate how they're feeling. They'll play it out. That's their language. So yeah, it was really crazy, but worked hard and worked really deep, and sort of prepared myself as much as I could for for being as effective practitioner as I could be.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And it's an interesting concept, I think, play therapy. And I think that word, play it out, really describes it in a nice way. And I guess, what is it around, how does that link to this tech side of things that you're focusing on at the moment? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I can talk to you about that. So sometimes when you study something, or you grow in an area, you find out what you love, but also what you don't love, or where you feel like things fit and where things are lacking. And just with this technology, it's just this digital revolution. It's so new, isn't it? We're the first parents bringing our children up in this digital age. And my passion is for prevention. So I find that when I've been working with people in the therapeutic way, it takes a lot of sessions and a lot of deep work for the child to find that place of healing, and with adults too, right? But if you can prevent things, if you can get in there early, or you can just teaching, I am happy to share my story with the coaching side of things in a minute, but then you can prevent so much stuff going on that you're going to have to undo in the future.
What sort of things do you work with? What sort of techniques really help?
Yeah, so it's putting, I call it family frameworks. So it's putting a family framework in place. If I backtrack a little bit, I've decided to go from the therapy side of things, even though I've trained in it all, into the coaching side of things, because it's looking at the whole picture, dealing with things holistically. Because sometimes, I'm not saying every child and every situation, but sometimes we think if we put the child into therapy for an hour a week, it's just going to fix everything. And I found that when you have supportive parents there and you've got that buy-in, and you're working with, so what's it like at home? How can we put frameworks in place? Then it's more effective. I mean, imagine, I'm working hard with a child. The child's working really well, but they go home and they're just on their iPad all the time. There's no interaction or connection with the parent. So we're not helping that child to grow and to develop emotional literacy or lower anxiety. We're putting them in a position where they could easily become addicted, and they get that dopamine hit. When we find out about the brain, so the neuroscience behind things, it's shocking. When you look into science, what science is telling us, neuroplasticity, there's lovely teaching on the 3 parts of the brain, things like that. You wake up as a parent and go, this is something I just want to grow in here, and so that I can prevent unnecessary harm to my child.
When you say unnecessary harm, for those that are watching and listening and think that it's harmless, having these little tech devices, what is the harm, the way that you see it, and in your understanding of?
I mean, I work on a case-by-case basis. So I don't make big sweeping statements, and I can't say how any parent should bring up their child. I think because I'm trying not to make sure people know I'm not calling myself a parenting expert, because I mean, who is? Like, we're like on this crazy journey, and it takes its turns, doesn't it? And you think you've cracked something, and then something else pops up, and you're like, what are we going to do now? However, if we're all about helping a child to feel safe and helping a child to feel connected and conscious, and we don't want anxious children. We want children who can concentrate, children who can be present for others and show empathy to others. There's some amazing things that technology can do, and it can break down isolation for children. It can help with connection. However, their brains don't even finish developing till they're 25. And we're talking about, it's like a social experiment. And you've got very, very rich tech companies who can afford to play down some of the research that's coming out. So all I can say is, this is why I'm trying to stay independent, and why I'm trying to make sure that I'm up to date with the latest research, but you know, keeping a child safe online is only the tip of the iceberg.
Yep.
It's making sure that we don't miss out on feeding that child with all the love and acceptance it needs to feel secure and confident as it comes into adulthood.
Yeah.
As they, you know.
I think you touched on the word. It's the dopamine, isn't it? I think dopamine. The more I understand our responses to dopamine, I think the article I read once said that giving a phone to a child is the equivalent of just giving them drugs and alcohol, because of the responses and that it has in their brain, which is powerful. It's a powerful image.
And imagine if you're in this amazingly bright world where everything's flashing in your face and entertaining you and exciting you, and then you turn it off and it's like, oh, everything just feels a bit dull. Like, why would I want to just blow bubbles, and why would I want to talk to you? You're not exciting. You haven't got background music going on here. And we've got to think, how is it for the child? Put ourselves in the child's position. And yes, there is science that shows that dopamine is released in massive quantities, and the brain can build up a resistance to it. So we're not just, I mean, I like the phrase everything in moderation, but one, you know, dose of dopamine for one child might be different to another. It's something that's still being worked out, but I'm determined to make sure that parents can be as informed as possible and make conscious choices. Like, if you've got a child that's suffering and struggling with obesity, would you put a massive bowl of sweets in their room and say, only take two? You know, we're putting our child in a position where their brains have not, you know, they're still forming. So regulation, things like that, is still developing in them. So there are some things, just to keep our children safe, that we do need to keep boundaries around, in my opinion, because if they are left to their own devices,
of course, then
potentially we could end up with addicted children, and it could be prevented.
And adults, because you know, I've learned a little bit about instant gratification and just, you know, the Netflix of our era, and I was sat watching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire last night, and I just found myself getting impatient at the, you know, the 100, 200, 300 pound question, because I just wanted to skip. It's like, come on, you know, and it's like, wow, even in that short space of time, you know, growing up as an adult, it's amazing what you become used to and the speed with which things happen. Yeah,
you've got instant gratification, but you've also got conflict, and that is a really damaging area for children. So if you look into trauma, I don't know if you that I've been looking into trauma a lot over the last few years, and it can shape the brain. And it's, if you're arguing constantly about get off your device, you know, and there's conflict about how much tech time kids are on, and there's lots of shouting going on in the home, things like that, you've also got potential damage there. Damage not just to the child's sense of safety, but also damage to, but also damage to the relationship between you and that child. And it's all about connection. It's just all about how can we foster connection? How can we make that child feel safe?
How do we make that child feel safe?
It's a good question. I think mainly, we need to take ownership again as parents on ourselves, on our mental state. And it's what I've been working on so hard myself, and I still have a long way to go. But there's something called transference that we look into when doing therapy with a child. And I know my state can affect the child in the therapy room state. I mean, imagine if you came for coaching with me and I'm like, so how are you today? How are you? Are you going to be all right? And I'm like this. I mean, you'll be like, whoa, I don't know what. You know, our state, our conscious, how conscious we can be, how present we can be with that child is so powerful. And I know that if we can keep that accountability, get coaching yourself, get therapy yourself, make sure it's with someone who's trained, someone who has supervision, someone who's always looking to be at the top of their game as far as research, then, you know, I don't know about you. How do you ever sort of notice when you're with your child, your emotional state can really have a knock-on effect in with, you know, your children and how you deal with it?
Yeah, 100%. It's this little model called Batari's box, which I think my attitude affects their attitude, affects my behaviour, affects their behaviour, and yeah, on a really good day, you know, it's just your chilled state will win. My downfall is my impatience, for sure.
Yeah, I've Lisa's just said about loving your kids on purpose. I just saw that little thing, and it's fantastic. I had the box set as when the kids were a bit older, and when I listened to it, I was like, oh, I wish I'd heard this earlier. You know, the amount of mistakes I've made with my own children, they keep me grounded. Let's just say that they're very good at
Sure.
pointing out my weaknesses. But yeah,
So
giving them choice is good.
So tell us a little bit about the group you set up. What's it called?
So I've started up the Building Connection in a Digital Age, and that's just a group that I'll be posting with more content on this theme. But again, I'm trying not to bombard parents because they've got enough going on in their plate at the moment.
So
but
who should join, and why?
That's for mainly for parents who want to just know more about how to connect with their children when everything's fast paced and full on. Yeah. It's just encouraging parents. It's a community that I'm hoping to build. I'm also putting content on the Play Healing page, and we're going back to school this week. You know, we've got the last week before going back to school, so I've just launched today some tickets for an interactive hours workshop, probably a bit more than that, where there's outdoor play and there's introduction to the colour monster, all about learning about the primary emotions. You know, with play healing, with, you know, so playing it out, kids don't always want to talk about how they're feeling. If you sat a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old down and said, how are you feeling about going back to school? They'll be like, yeah. But you might notice your child starting not to sleep very well, or saying they have bad dreams, or getting angry, or little emotional outbursts more, or more reserved, or asking you questions about school and things like that. So with all these are little indicators of maybe some anxiety coming up, or them just needing a little bit more of attunement on your part. Have you heard of attunement?
Go on.
Yeah, attunements. I love the word attunement. You can think about a radio tuning in, coming into their frequency. Again, it's really tough to tune into your child when you're feeling anxious yourself, or stressed, or you're worrying about your finances, or you're worrying about the next thing, or you're cooking. But it's just pausing, breathing, monitoring your own emotional state, and just tuning in to your child for a minute. Then they can feel heard and safe, and more likely to just relax themselves, or maybe open up.
Yeah, as Lisa says in the comments, that's very familiar at the moment. It's certainly you're describing some very similar scenes. It's difficult, I think, from a position of a parent myself, is how much of, for us personally, it's a case of how much is bad habit during the summer versus attunement being needed, I guess.
Yeah,
that's what I'm having to constantly work out.
Yeah, and that's why I'm launching a mastermind like in September, because I think there'll be some parents who found the children's behaviours, or them things have come up during the holidays that triggered them. Maybe they've got more irritable about certain things, not enjoyed their child's company as much as they thought they might have, or really realised that their children have grown so much and they've got some catching up to do, or they've gone through loads of tech during the holidays, or filled lots of time with lots of tech, and they're thinking, how am I going to pull it back again? How am I going to create this safe framework to move forward and give them the best chances of thriving at school? So yeah, that's something, if people want something more intense, and when you do it in a group, it's going to be more affordable than just working on a one-to-one basis. But yeah, I'm really keen to support parents before you get to the crisis point. You know, this prevention better than cure
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, amazing. My ethos is about being always better than yesterday, and I'm just curious to know what that phrase means to you.
I was thinking about this, and I came up with all sorts of things, but didn't feel right. But I think just one word is growth. I know that I've needed to grow in my marriage. There's a time when we hit complete rock bottom, and we needed a lot of help. We had to have 3 months of life coaching, an hour each, and an hour separately. And when it's all about baby steps. She'd gone about baby steps. I heard a phrase this week: small changes, big results, or big impact. Yeah. And that whole thing of growth, sometimes we just have to tweak things. But my heart goes out to people who the day they're in is not as good as yesterday, and they've got some really rough stuff going on. But again, opportunities for growth, hey?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
amazing. Love that. How can people connect with you? Where can people find you? And who would you like to reach out to you?
I'm really up for parents who want to be as conscious and informed as possible before their children grow up, and it's it's out of their hands because they grow up so fast, right? I don't know about how you find.
Yeah.
Just want to support parents and help them to put things in place, find the tools they need to parent as consciously as possible, and to find out the power of play. I called play healing because I believe in the healing power of play, and I want to empower parents.
Love that. I love that. Guys, girls, thank you for taking the time out this evening to spend it with us both. I hope that you've definitely found something that you were able to take off into your own lives. And even if there's someone there will be someone within your own community that this will resonate with. So just please think of them and just share it within their inbox. I just want to say a massive thank you to you, Debbie, for taking the time out this Sunday evening on a bank holiday weekend, coming home from Cheddar Gorge to spend some time with us. And I'd just be really grateful if you could share us a final thought from your good self.
Oh, wow. Okay. I think just uniqueness. I've taught for 20 years. I've had thousands of children, interacted with hundreds and thousands of children, and every single child's been unique and had their little thing. And to say that there's one size fits all is just not right. And that we need to break out of the boxes of parenting a little bit more and find our own unique sound and style that brings peace, that brings connection, and that empowers this next generation of amazing beings,
Yeah. I love that. I love that. What a final thought. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you all have a great week. And I'll speak to you again soon. Much love, everybody.
So much. Thank you, mate. Cheers. Bye.